Now streaming on Shudder is the new holiday horror riff on the classic all-time It's a Wonderful Life. This time, It's a Wonderful Knife. So it basically takes the overall structure of It's a Wonderful Life and turns it into a modern horror comedy. We have a young lady who is the lone survivor of a massacre from a knife-wielding killer around Christmas time at a party, and a year later, just the world is a mess and nobody respects for her, and she's unhappy, and she does the Jimmy Stewart, I wish I was never born, things would be better if I was never born. She's sitting at the edge of a town or a lake or a body of water, and she looks up at the Aurora Borealis, the Northern Lights, and suddenly she finds that she turns around and things are not so good. Things are not so good in her town. The killer who she had stopped and killed at the beginning of the film, if she was never born, she couldn't stop the killer. So the killer killed people that she managed to save in her previous incarnation and is still out there regularly killing people. Who will survive and what will be left of them? And will she be able to stop this killer? Will she be able to survive a world where nobody knows her, including her family? And how's this all going to play out? And will she be able to get back home like Sam on Quantum Leap, or like Michael J. Fox in Back to the Future? So this is a horror comedy. So horror comedies, ideally, they're funny and scary. I didn't find this movie funny. Most of the laughs, they didn't land for me. So the scary parts, the murdery parts are certainly intense and well done, but it really feels like It's a Wonderful Life and Scream mashed up. All of the murder parts, the killer basically looks like Ghostface, except all in white instead of black, and except a blank face instead of the ghost face. But it's the big knife. It feels a lot like Ghostface. The cast is interesting. You have Jane Widdop as our heroine. You have Joel McHale as the father, which is still weird for me to see Joel McHale playing the dad and stuff, but I guess enough time has passed. You have Justin Long as the really sleazy, like, real estate magnate head of the town, and Catherine Isabel from, you'd probably know from Ginger Snaps, as the aunt of our heroine here. And it's certainly aimed at more of a teen audience, teen 20-something audience, I think. And it didn't work for me, honestly. Like, it's an interesting idea to apply, to mash up, It's a Wonderful Life and a slasher movie. And there are just moments that didn't make any sense to me where yes, the whole idea of somebody saying, I wish I was never born, and suddenly it's a whole different reality, that's science fiction. But even within that, they never established that anything other than that is really outside of the norm of our space and time, until toward the end, where there's a very supernatural thing that apparently has been going on in this town that just pops up out of nowhere. And I'm like, what is this? This is ridiculous. Like, nobody said anything about this weird supernatural thing. Again, setting aside the fact that this is a supernatural tale. And then at the very end, when I'm not going to say how it ends, but at the very end of the film, something happens where it just seemed very narratively convenient. More than once in this film, things seemed very narratively convenient. Like, they're in a movie theater, and this girl who's the weirdo that everybody calls weirdo, the shunned girl, our hero makes friends with her. This shunned girl apparently works in or runs a movie theater, and they go in and they watch A Christmas Carol on film, it sounds like. There's a sound of a whirring 35 millimeter projector, and they're sitting there watching the whole movie by themselves. And I'm like, okay, they must have a platter system, and it's a theater that still runs film. That's interesting. But that's nitpicking. But our hero falls asleep in the theater. She wakes up several hours later, and this other girl has created one of those, like, crime scene walls in that amount of time, where printing out, cutting out, taping up all kinds of articles from all over the place. And she's like, oh, yeah, I did this while you were asleep. I'm like, has she been asleep for 3 weeks? Anyway, I'm not a nitpicker. I didn't think it was that great. So if you are interested, those are my rambling, meandering thoughts on it's certainly well shot. I'll give it that. And the actors in it were pretty good. It's just, writing-wise, I thought it was kind of weak, but that's probably 90% of horror movies these days. It's a Wonderful Knife.